everybody, thank you for pressing play. Welcome to my channel, Life of Liz. So today I will be talking about a book that I just finished reading like 10 minutes ago, and that is 13 Reasons Why by Mr. J. Asher. So I just finished reading this book, and it's going to leave a lasting impression, definitely. Um, it was a very good book, and not in the way that you would expect it to be. So the premise of the book is that Clay Jensen receives a set of tapes, and on these tapes, he finds out the truth of why Hannah Baker committed suicide. And this book takes place in a 24-hour period, so in a day, but the tapes go back about 2 years. So you find out all of the reasons that led to Hannah Baker taking her own life. So I feel like this is a very important book um, for many reasons. It portrays, how society views people who commit suicide or people that are suicidal, and how, we have prejudice against those people. We have a lot of information and we choose to ignore it. It goes, how everything we do has an effect, whether it's good or bad. Everything we say, everything we do affects somebody in a way that we cannot control, and everything we do or do not do plays an important role not only in our life but in other people's life. And this book really kind of focuses that and kind of pushes that idea at us without really saying it out loud. It does say it a couple of times throughout the story. I found it to be a very easy read, like a very accessible language, but a very hard read for personal reasons. I had this book recommended to me by several people, and I'm glad I picked it up and I read it right away. It definitely leaves a lasting impression, and it kind of like makes you think twice about everything you do in your life. Um, Definitely would recommend it to anybody and everybody, young, old, reader, non-reader alike. I feel like this is a very important book because we don't have a lot of books that really talk about suicide and its effects and how it affects the person that commits suicide. So the reason that I found it very interesting is because we are in Hannah Baker's head, and she kind of gives us the reasoning for why it is that she did this. And the ending is very very well, the ending is nice, but Hannah Baker's ending in the story is very tragic and very sad, and it makes you wish that you could have done something. Um, so I definitely recommend 5 out of 5. I gave this 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. Definitely recommend that you check it out. So this is going to be the end of a non-spoilery part of this video. I do want to talk about some of the stuff that happened and how that has related a little to my life. So I'll give you a few seconds to just, close this tab, go read this book, come back. Okay. Okay, so I'm assuming that everybody that stayed has read this book. So like I just said, I just finished reading it, and I made the mistake, or not mistake, but I made the decision to check some of the other reviews on Goodreads. And I was a little upset by some of the things that I read, um, like concerning Hannah Baker's reasons for committing suicide. I was like, I kind of lost hope in like humanity a little bit for a second, because some people were like she was too whiny, like the reasons that she picked for committing suicide are stupid, so unbelievable. Like it's just stuff that happens to everybody in high school, and like comments like that. And that made me really really sad, because as someone who's been in Hannah Baker's shoes, that has contemplated, ending her life, hearing that stuff only enforced the idea, or would have enforced the idea for me to go through with, killing myself. They're like, oh, people were saying, she didn't have actual reasons, like you can't pinpoint reasons that would lead you to commit suicide, and like people and stuff like that, and like she just wanted to find an excuse and she'd wanted to blame other people. And I was very very hurt. I was very upset when I read those things. I was like, I brought on myself because I chose to read them, but still the fact that these people thought this just made me so upset. So like her reasoning makes perfect sense to someone who has been that depressed and that sad and that hopeless. Um, like for me, nobody ever, like, I didn't have any rumors like that going around about myself or anything, but people I knew, people I considered friends, like she considered, some of the girls there, like said things to me or did things to me that I thought were for my own good, and that they did it because they were my friends. And it turns out that they were just using me, or they were just doing it as like a backhanded compliment. So I mean, I was 14 years old, so it was middle school for me, so I was a little younger than Hannah, but still, like, I could I could tell you the people that made me want to, end my life. I can tell you scenarios and things and all of the stuff that to somebody objectively would look like stupid, idiotic reasons, childish reasons, all of that. And that's the things people said about Hannah Baker, and about the story, that it was unbelievable and all of that. And like, it just really, really hurt me. And I wanted to just like throw my phone like against my wall because of the stuff I read. So, okay, I got that off my chest, a little upset. So let's go with the 13 reasons. Let's actually go back to the book. Sorry, it kind of went on a tangent. The book was very, very well written, I believe. Um, People were saying that they were having difficulty, with the narration. I do not have any problem with it because of the italics. Like, that visual shift, I knew who was talking, who was not talking. I enjoyed the fact that we had Hannah, I keep saying Hannah Baker, I don't know why I keep saying her name. Hannah, like, monologuing, and then we had little bits of Jensen filling in, like, the blanks for us, or, like, giving his opinion and kind of grounding us to his experience and his reactions to what he was listening to. And, at first it didn't make sense why he was picked, but I understood why he was on the table. Like, he was important to her, and he kind of had a reasoning to, like, to be on this tape, like, even though she says you don't belong on this tape, but his inactions, like his lack of actions and his lack of doing what he should have done, really kind of does put a little bit of part-time blame on him, even though she, relieves him of blame, because sometimes not doing anything is as bad as doing something, in my opinion. So I enjoyed that, and then the idea of the audio tapes, and that ending, that it was kind of the teacher's fault that she went through with it. And people were like, oh, like a teacher wouldn't go, but honestly, adults, and I guess I'm an adult, but people in charge, people in power, they have a harder time accepting that children and young people, young adults, go through traumas that are hard enough and strong enough in their own head, perhaps. Like, someone else could be stronger and more, resilient, but there are people that aren't, and there are people that are more prone to these kinds of mental patterns, mental thoughts. So the fact that a teacher is willing to brush that off is very much realistic, very much possible. Again, because I've been there. I showed signs. I was cutting myself. I changed my appearance radically. I was not buying things. I was doing all of this that could have clued somebody in, like, even after we've had seminars and all of this. So when people are like, that's unrealistic, it's like, it's unrealistic to you. And some girl was like, oh, she was like, it's unrealistic because I'm bipolar and I'm depressed and I never would have done this or done that or done that. It's like, depression and mental illness affect people differently. Everybody gets affected differently. Everybody copes differently. And I feel like this book tried to portray that, and a lot of people didn't get it. And I feel like that's why a lot of people need to read. Because the part where, like, people are like, oh, why is she trying to kill herself in the book? She doesn't need, like, we need to know the stigma for people who are mentally depressed, who are mentally ill, who are just, having a hard time they're seen as attention seekers and people that just want, somebody else to solve their problems for them. And that is really, in high school we are egotistical as, young adults. And I just wish adults would have paid more attention. Like with me, my parents didn't notice any of this. They didn't know, like I literally had, like scabs on my arms, and just I was like emo, you could say. Nobody noticed. All they noticed was that I had an attitude problem. It wasn't until I was about to finish high school, almost 4 years later, that my mother found out that I was depressed and that I wanted to end my life. So, I'm gonna make a video about how books saved my life, and I'll probably post it after this. But I was lucky enough to find an out, and Hannah wasn't, and that is tragic because so many kids battle with mental illness and depression and suicidal thoughts, and we just brush them off as moody teenagers. And I feel like this book should be taught in schools. I feel like people should talk about this book more often, or more, just more, because it does raise so many big questions. And like I said, people, if you look at this objectively, her reasons they're not good reasons. But that's not the point. The point is that her reasonings were valid to her. They were important to her. They harmed her. And a lot of people didn't understand that. That didn't go across to them. And I'm really like upset about that. And people are like, oh, this isn't a good book. Like, it's not a good reason. And like, oh, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, it doesn't portray mental illness. And she was whiny. When I read that she was whiny, I was like, that's what I thought people thought of me. That's what kept going in my head. People thought I was whiny. People thought that I was just making it all up. If I had somebody like that in my life, or like the teacher who'd like get over it, you wouldn't have me here right now. And I wish the stigma behind mental illness would go away, just because even to this day I suffer from depression and from just self self-esteem issues, self-conscious issues, because when I was younger nobody understood and I had to do it all alone. And I was fortunate enough to be perhaps a little more resilient than other people that I knew, than Hannah, even though she's a fictional character. And there's some people that can't handle that. And I just feel like this book needs to be read. It needs to be taught in schools. I know I already said that, but it's very important. It it it's important. It's so important. And I thoroughly enjoyed reading it, even though it was hard and it was, it provoked a lot of thoughts with me. Like I think my favorite quote, because I didn't write a lot of notes to this, I kind of just read through. My favorite little quote, not my favorite, but the one that kind of resonated with me the most, and I bookmarked it. If only I could find it, um, was this particular sentence, or it was a phrase. Sorry, and I feel like this is just it. It works very perfectly. So let's see. That's not it. Oh, it's a lot further back than I had anticipated. If only you can find it. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not gonna find it apparently. Oh, here it is. So I guess that's the point of it all. No one knows for certain how much impact they have on the lives of others. Oftentimes we have no clue. We we push it just the same. Yet we push it just the same. And I think that's really resonated with me, because it's true. Like you don't know what you say, what you do affects other people, or what you say and what you don't do affects other people. And a lot of the time, like that's what makes it worse. And I'm gonna stop, being so upset just because, I'm gonna just end that rant here. It was an amazing book. Tell me what you thought of it. Do you agree? Do you disagree with what I had to say? Were there any points that you think I should have brought up that I didn't? So yeah, just if you like this video, hit thumbs up, comment down below what you thought of my thoughts, and we can have a conversation about that. And if you want to see more of my face, press subscribe. We'll have a couple more videos out in the near future. So that is all from me. See you guys soon. Adios.